Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 362 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, a second edit podcast. There's a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight, the greatest hostess in the entire universe. I am not worthy, but there she is, Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
Whew, it has been a very tense 10, 12 days. And I'm ready for that to be over, please. Nothing really to add, unless you're a patron and you get to hear the expanded version on the blooper reel. But yeah, it's just been, everyone wants a piece of me because of Pink Pistols and Blazing Sword, and they're all wanting to talk, and I've been getting it from both sides, the Daily Caller on the right and Bloomberg on the left. And it's a very distressing feeling to be this popular for this particular reason. Mm-hmm. So some interesting things have happened around the house in terms of emergency preparedness, because we are entering hurricane season. Technically hurricane season starts in June, but it really doesn't until September or October is when it really gets serious, which is one reason why Hurricane Andrew back in 91 was such a big deal, because it was literally the first storm of the season in August. We weren't expecting that, but I'm feeling very prepping in that regard. And so I mentioned a while back that we had solar panels installed for free because FPL wants us to generate power, and so those went online today. And hopefully that's going to put a dent in our power bill. Looking forward to that. The other thing that's going on is less fun, but it's a prepping thing. So the city is going to be shutting off water at 9 in the morning, and for potentially 12 hours, because they're doing waterline maintenance. And then because that's going to stir up all sorts of sediment and things like that, we'll be on a boil water schedule until we're told otherwise. And so Mom and I, we're going, well, how about instead of boiling water, we just cache a lot of it? And so we've been filling up, jugs and bottles and things like that. And I'm pretty sure we have enough bottled water now to last us for 48 hours. So, I'm filling up a jug, and I'm telling Mom, look, I understand full well that I am over-preparing, and honestly, I am fine with that. I would much rather be over-prepared and go, yeah, we didn't need all this, than to be, 12 hours into a 48-hour shortage going, dang, we really should have stored more water. So that's just, it gives me something to focus on. And so, yeah, all right, now I'm thinking about checking my bug out bags and making sure my hurricane preps are all set. And so I'm in a very prepper state of mind right now, which helps get me out of this funk. Gives me something to do that I'm good at, and I'm making progress. So that's helping lift me out of this depression. More than the medication, actually. So that's what's going on with me.
I think you openly said that the reason why you became a prepper was mostly just for mental health reasons.
Yeah, well, see, I have always worried. I'm a worrywart. I come by it honestly. My mother does it, and it was only very recently that I went, this is probably anxiety. Maybe I should get treated for that. But yeah, that was one of the reasons that I became a prepper. It was just, I'm worried about what will happen, in a hurricane, and we have wildfires and we've got occasional tornadoes. And it's just what? I'm going to do this. And that's one less thing I don't have to worry about. And it is kind of soothing just to look over my preps and make sure everything's working and there are no leaks and the batteries are charged, and it's puttering around, but it feels productive and it's very soothing. And, I'm listening to an audiobook as I do it, and it's kind of meditative. So it's really nice to be in that zone. So I know I've talked an awful lot. Yes.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of an old anti-gun talking point that I have not heard in ages. It's probably most of our listeners will be too young to have ever even encountered this in any media format. But it used to be that anti-gun people would say, "Oh, I would never want to carry a gun because I don't want to be scared all the time." And it's the most like completely ridiculous opposite day sort of statement, because it's one of those things of I only get scared and really upset when I am at the end of my rope. I have run out of all options. I think I've told the story a number of times about I was pulling my car. I was driving down a road. We were looking for something, and suddenly my girlfriend realized, oh, that's the corner coming up. It's coming up much sooner than we saw. This is before GPS. And so I turned and hit a patch of sand, and my vehicle spun out, and we went down into a ditch. And I'm just like, oh, we're spinning, turn into the curve. All right, there we go. All right, we're not spinning anymore, but we're not, jam on the brakes. All right, we're not going up, we're going off the road. Okay, do we need to direct it? There's a tree coming. We stopped just before we hit the tree and all that. And then I turned and looked at my girlfriend and went, are you okay? She goes, yes, I'm okay. And then I just started crying because then suddenly now it's one of those like, all right, all those feelings that were supposed to go through my head can now go through my head. Going through. But before then, I was too busy. I was too busy to feel anything. And that's one reason I like carrying a gun, because it's one of those like, I was telling my wife, it sounds really callous and it's not how I think about it, but it's one of those, if all else fails, I can shoot my way out. Like, it's just one of those, like, it has to go real bad, and that's it. We've had to exhaust a lot of things, but it's nice to know that I have an option that nuclear at my disposal. And so, yeah, I totally get how like that can absolutely, it's the exact opposite of fear is no, I'm busy. I'm working on stuff. And I will say that a couple of years ago, we had a major water main replacement in town, and we were out of water for, I think it was about 48 hours or so. And we did exactly that. We filled up a whole bunch of bottles and jugs and things like that for drinking water. And then we filled the tub up to the brim and had a bucket for dipping. And that was what we used to wash dishes and things like that. And also for flushing the toilet. And, it is one of those, like, everybody else showered up nice and good and got everything going. And then, we did all of our laundry, and then they shut the water off. And I think I was still drinking from the from the bottled water for like the rest of the week, because I'm like, I'm not just gonna dump this out. So yeah, no, it's and I learned all that thanks to Blue Collar Prepping.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, the only downside to this is that Mom likes to take a bath Tuesday afternoon, and so that's out. So and she's 86 now. And she really relies on that bath to help soothe the aching joints.
That's understandable.
So, yeah, that's not going to be fun for her. And so that means it's not going to be fun for me because, when she hurts, it bothers me because it's like, I want to fix. I can't fix. Yeah. I just got to suffer watching you. So do you have some good news? Weird.
I mean, I do have some good news. I don't have it set up in that exact order in the show notes. I wanted to lead on with this very, very interesting story. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the killing of Charlie Kirk, and one of the things that's been going on is that certain people have been more or less happy that he lost his life, and there's been consequences for that. One of those people, and it's way more complicated than that. And you hinted about the blooper reel. I will say that we dove real deep, and it was a very, very interesting discussion on Jimmy Kimmel being suspended. I believe he's actually going to be coming back on the air now at the time of this recording. But the overall reason was that he had made a callous, quote unquote, joke about the killer of Charlie Kirk. There's some more statements about possibly overstep by the FCC, and also possibilities on the fact that nobody watches late night TV anymore, and the ratings are absolutely terrible. So they're not making money off of Jimmy Kimmel's show anymore. So who knows why? The exact reason why he was suspended, but a lot of people got up in arms on that. There's good reason for some of that. But one person took it a little bit too far and actually went to the ABC affiliate and actually fired a gun into the building. And luckily no one was hurt, but that's a very, very bad thing. And they were arrested. And but the more important thing that I wanted to point out is that number one, actually, that the person was arrested and then pretty much was given bond and immediately released. And that's really more of a statement about the fact that a lot of the violent criminals out there have many violent charges on them, and all that. And I don't think we take violent criminals as seriously as we should be, especially in places that want to restrict people's ownerships on guns. Like, all right, you're going to take my guns away, but when somebody is shooting people with a gun, you're just going to let them back out.
So you are forgetting, I think, the cherry on top, unless you're building to it.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's point number two, is that they were released, but because he was targeting a television station, he's actually, violating federal code. Essentially, he's violating the First Amendment by disrupting the freedom of press. And so the FBI swept in and grabbed this person. So he is now in federal custody. But the cherry on top that Aaron so delightfully was hinting to is that I don't know if he was the one that dug it up, but that's who I saw it from. Our friend Costas Moros. He dug up some social media history of this person, and is noting that they were a staunch supporter of gun control, and they have a whole bunch of anti-gun posts up on. It looks like this is from a Twitter account.
I mean, at one point he does say that he was making the Sandy Hook promise to keep his community and country safer from gun violence.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And, that's, just so you know, if you want to keep your community safe from gun violence, don't try to kill people with a gun.
So, yeah, he was a hypocrite who acquired a gun. And, I get the feeling that he did not own this gun legally. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. I just said that, and then there's a tweet where he says he is a proud gun owner. Mm. Okay. Well, I mean, he really should have known better then. So he's a hypocrite, and this was in California with all of their strong gun laws, and yet these gun laws didn't do anything to stop him.
Yes, and I will say that as someone who has spent a lot of time dealing with anti-gun people, and some really, really nasty anti-gun people, some of which were very, very prominent in this circle, others of which were just, blog trolls and the like, is I found that there was actually quite a few that would fit into two categories. Either people who themselves were, we'll just say, predatory. A lot. I have met quite a few people who are anti-gun, and while they wouldn't admit that, they kind of wear it on their sleeves that they have definitely been in many a situation where someone could have legally shot them and been completely justified. And then the other one is people that I think this person falls into, which is people that have very, very poor impulse control. And they just naturally assume that we're all as prone to violent outbursts and lack of control as them. And so, we should all not have guns because I can't be trusted with guns, and I'm not going to at all reflect that maybe I have a problem and I need to work some stuff out. No, everyone's got the same problem as I do, and so therefore no one should have guns.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the cherry on top. That was I found that to be a very, very interesting chain of events. Is that there was a shooting. Thankfully, it's not really that big, and it's national news only because Jimmy Kimmel thing is such big news. But thankfully, no one was hurt. This is just another one of these, stupids acted stupid. But the fact that this person was such an active member of the gun control community in California is trying to conduct a spree killing is quite a nice juxtaposition.
So my very brief thoughts on the Jimmy Kimmel situation are that, honestly, this was coming for a while, because when Colbert, he wasn't even fired. He was just told that his contract wasn't being renewed.
Yeah, he's still on air right now, but he just knows that it's over.
Yeah, but he was the one in the lead of the 3 or however many late night shows there are, and he was showing a loss. The revenue and viewers he was bringing in did not match the effort and the salaries being paid to keep this show going. And so this was spun as it was a commercial decision. And so, hey, if he was in the lead and didn't get renewed, then that means that Kimmel and whoever his NBC version is...
Jimmy Fallon.
Fallon, thank you. They're going to be next, because just by definition, they were bringing in even fewer viewers and even less revenue. And so what I think happened was that ABC looked at this and went, this is as good a reason as any to fire him.
Yeah, I actually, in talking with this with other people, with that exact theory was, this isn't about Charlie Kirk. This is about trying to, though again, my theory has been proven wrong, because again, Kimmel's going to be is going to be back on the air soon. I don't know if he's going to fall on the sword or all that. There's been a bunch of stuff talked about. We will see, and it's not really much interest to the ACP format. But I had actually done a couple of Weer'd audio fisks on James Corden. And I looked him up, and it turned out, he was canceled in 2023. And I didn't even realize it because no one was watching him. So that show has been over for a number of years. So I think if I was Jimmy Fallon, I would be tightening up my resume and figuring out what I wanted to do next.
James Corden was canceled, or just not renewed? I'm trying to figure out how political it was.
I think they just canceled the show. It was just not. It was not a thing. It was not renewed, and they did exactly what they're doing with Colbert, which is his contract has not been renewed. He will not be working for them at the end of his contract, and then also the Tonight Show. That was, started with, was it Jack Parr? I'm trying to remember who the very first host.
That sounds right, but I'm not certain.
But we know it as the Johnny Carson Show, and then later the Jay Leno Show. There will be no other host. It's done. They will not be. Yeah. They will not be doing it unless they decide to revive it some other time. But we're getting to the end of an era, and so that's I agree with you on that. That it's just this was. I thought for sure that they said, we're because he wasn't actually all that offensive either. He wasn't reveling to death. He just simply said, "Oh, the killer was a Trump supporter," of which there is absolutely no evidence on that. The killer was registered as an independent and had not voted in the last several elections. And I'll just leave it at that, because I don't feel the need to get political on, pointing fingers on, oh, he was a Democrat. No, we'll just say he wasn't affiliated. That's a much easier thing to say and verify. But what Kimmel said was, patently false and provably false, and everyone knew that it was false at the time that he said it. But, I didn't think it was that as bad as what many other people have said and done. But I think they were just look over there. They let Colbert go, but they're still paying him. This way, we don't have to pay him, but they're still paying him too.
Honestly, I'm surprised that James Corden lasted as long as he did, because I was a big fan of Craig Ferguson, and I loved his humor.
Oh, Craig Ferguson is brilliant.
Yes, and I was very upset when he decided to retire, but I understand why he did. And so I gave James Corden an honest try. He just wasn't funny. I'm sorry, he was not funny at all. And so I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did.
Yeah, funny that. I mean, I kind of feel the same way about Jimmy Kimmel. Is I first found out about him with the Man Show, and was just one of those, like, he was just the straight man to Adam Carolla, and Adam Carolla was the one that was making all the jokes. But whatever. Okay, now shifting gears a little bit, I've got kind of a yin and a yang, because these two stories are not directly related, but they are very, very interesting. So this is an article from the Bulwark. I actually heard about this from the Reload, but I didn't end up linking it because it's from the members only section. And by all means, go over to the Reload. It's a very affordable membership, and it's a great Second Amendment. I mean, they're one of the best primary news sources for Second Amendment news, and so if you want to go read it over there, go right ahead. But this was where they were sourcing this article about how essentially the article is a little bit more broad than this, but they were pointing out the fact that Democrats are softening on gun control to try to draw in more members. So this is essentially talking about a big tent philosophy for Democrats. And it's a very interesting article. But specifically, they're talking about Chris Murphy, and he is the face of gun control in U.S. politics right now. Like, he is the politician. He's taken up the mantle from, I mean, really, when I first started getting into this, it was Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, and Carolyn McCarthy were the big names of anti-gun politicians who are the ones that were drafting and submitting all the anti-gun laws. And Carolyn McCarthy has retired. Dianne Feinstein has passed away, and Chuck Schumer, I think he's probably eyeing retirement sometime soon. Is my guess, because he's definitely getting up there in age, and it definitely appears that Chris Murphy has absolutely taken up the mantle as the head honcho of presenting and drafting gun control legislation. But in this article, doesn't directly say that he wants to try to embrace more stuff, but it definitely says he wants to soften his approach on guns because he's driving people away from the Democrat Party.
Well, I know that we have many liberal friends who will welcome this, like Lara Smith and Sarah Cade, who are liberal gun owners. And so, hey, Democrat Party that respects the Second Amendment is, well, honestly, it's welcome for all of us. It's certainly welcome for me. Just having both political parties that respect all of our constitutional rights is something that we don't have, and it's something that we desperately need. And so, yeah, that's great.
And also, I mean, I am definitely huge on a big tent Second Amendment overall. Just because I don't think there's anything about the Second Amendment that is particularly partisan. And so there's no reason for Democrats to be for gun control any more than there's a particular reason why Republicans are the party of gun rights, of which I put in scare quotes because, just because they say they support our gun rights doesn't mean they are. And if we can start having a more big tent approach, especially for one of the missions of this show is to be a big tent leader and to say this is a safe place for conservatives and liberals and for Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, socialists, whatever you have but we believe you all have the right to keep and bear arms. And I want to foster a space so that sometime there might be a movement within the Democrat Party or within a liberal third party that is going to be pro-gun, that they need to have a space for them. And I'd also like to hope that we don't have political infighting going, oh, I'm not going to let that person in there just because they're pro-gun. They don't vote the way I vote. Well, but they vote the way you vote on guns. And wouldn't that be great if all we're doing is talking about abortion and healthcare and taxes and things like that, instead of worrying about, but this thing's got a bayonet lug, so it must be banned. So that is a good news. But meanwhile, the other side of this is this article from NBC News. Charlie Kirk's assassin alleged gun was powerful, vintage, and hard to trace. And this is just
they're doing exactly what I said they would do.
Yes. Yep. No, this is absolutely correct. The one big difference is that I have not seen the term sniper rifle thrown in here.
Oh, you haven't gone down far enough.
Oh,
go down to the picture below the picture of the Mauser action. So they're saying, they're quoting the ATF and saying a bolt action rifle, you don't see those guns used in violent crimes. And then you get the typical, that's because they can't be as easily concealed as handguns, and they're not designed to spray a large volume of bullets at once, experts say. And then they do exactly what I said they would do, and I'm not claiming to have invented this, I've read it before. They go on to say, but they are, in some ways, ideally suited for use in sniper-style killing, because they're so ubiquitous and beloved by hunters and recreational shooters. A person toting such a rifle in a place like Utah would not arouse any suspicion. You don't have to have gone to sniper school or have been any type of champion marksman, says a retired NYPD officer. And so, this is exactly what people have been saying. First, they come for the semi-autos because they're fast and they allow you to kill a lot of people. And then they'll go after your bolt-action hunting rifles because they're sniper rifles. And then they'll go after shotguns because they are, big and loud, and with the spray of the pellets, what's the word I'm looking for here? Yeah, okay, it's just, it's a room broom, and you won't hit what you're aiming at, you'll hit everything else. And they will find a way to just restrict us down to, well, ideally to them, restrict us down to nothing.
I actually, the other day, heard someone earnestly, and it surprised me, but also, it shouldn't have because of the sheer level of logic behind it. But this person was, I'll just say they are very left of center and proudly left of center. And they are definitely more in the defund the police camp than I am. And this person was asking about what were some, I can't remember how it came up, but essentially we got talking about police loadouts. And they were asking how prevalent police were using shotguns. And I mentioned that, it all depends on the department, but most of the departments that I've seen have essentially relegated the shotgun to be for less lethal ammunition, and they're going for the handgun for the sidearm, but then also having a rifle as something that they can grab if they need better accuracy or better firepower. And they were actually relieved that police were using more AR-15s, because they were actually noting they had actually looked up the ballistics on shotguns, and the Clint Smith terminal ballistics quote of infamy comes to mind. Is, Clint points out that pistols put holes in people, rifles put holes through people, but shotguns remove pieces from people, and so long as it's the right load, and against an unarmored thing. I actually remember reading a ballistics report from it was actually a coroner who was just looking at bodies that were showing up in morgues, and didn't care if it was they were good guys or bad guys or why they were going through. And the line literally said, people who had been shot with shotguns loaded with buckshot, EMTs had a very, very difficult time getting them to the hospital while alive. And so, yeah, you absolutely, shotguns tend to be that one of those, the gun that they tend to come for last, but it's very easy for someone to make a scary story on the absolute devastation that buckshot and slugs can do to a person.
I mean, they have a carve out, as I understand it, in NFA.
Yeah, the NFA. Yep.
Because they do technically qualify as destructive devices, but so there's actually an exception for shotguns.
But even then, the AA-12 shotgun was just straight out deemed. No, but not that one.
Well, most likely because it was, what was it, fully automatic?
It's based on the one that was specifically is NFA restricted is a semi-auto configuration.
Oh.
Because full auto is the ultimate. Like, a full auto can be anything. You can put if you have a machine gun, you can put a short barrel on it. You can put a stock on a fully automatic pistol. You can do anything you really want with a machine gun because it's the ultimate one. Actually, Ordnance Lab, they were actually testing firing Molotov cocktails from cannons, and the cannon is a single shot accessory to an AR-15 because it's shooting a blank and it doesn't have any gas system on it whatsoever. So that action is not cycling when the blank is firing, and but still they put it on a full auto lower just to make sure that the ATF didn't give them a hard time. So yeah, the full auto AA-12 is not any more restricted than anything else. It was the semi-auto versions that were considered destructive devices.
Okay.
That and the street sweeper shotgun, because its name is scary.
Mm-hmm.
But also in the article, they note that they're referencing the Carcano rifle used by Oswald to kill President Kennedy. So they're really digging deep into the scare factor. Is military surplus rifles was used to kill John F. Kennedy, and they're also noting they're calling the rifle that was used to kill Charlie Kirk they're acting like it was a military surplus rifle. And I've heard a lot of people say, it was probably a military surplus Mauser that was rebarreled in 30-06. And that's a possibility. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but and we were just talking to David before the show started, and he was noting that there's a lot of features on the rifle that was recovered at the scene that are not indicative of a military Mauser. And chances are Mauser absolutely was making and selling custom hunting rifles. They may still do it. I'm not 100% sure. But more than likely, this gun was made as a 30-06 rifle in Germany and then imported to the United States specifically for commercial sale.
I got nothing to add.
Yeah. But yeah, either way, that's if there's this. go in the show notes and grab this article, because if you've got a quote unquote FUD as a family member or a friend who's one of those, I don't need to worry about those AR-15s, let them ban them. All I need is my hunting rifle. Go give them a show. Like, if anybody, it just openly shows that every gun owner has a target on their back. All right. Well, I'm going to shift gears ever so slightly from a target on your back politically to potentially risks that you may be taking literally, because these are wild times, and it's a good idea to take your safety precautions seriously. And so, of course, you're talking about your carry guns, your preps, all of those things. But also, you need to make sure that you are safe after the fact in the event that you need to use a weapon. And so I'm actually again talking with Kent Brown of CCW Safe, and we're specifically talking about the merger that they did with the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. I am pleased to welcome back to the Assorted Calibers podcast, Kent Brown, the president of CCW Safe. And if you heard the last interview, if you haven't, go back and listen to it. But if you heard the last interview, Marty and Gila Hayes of Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network are retiring, and we wish you guys all the best, Marty and Gila. They're wonderful, delightful people. And of course, Marty's been on the Assorted Calibers podcast several times before, and has been on a number of other podcasts you've probably listened to. But I reached out to Marty, and Marty got me in touch with Kent. And the big thing I'm curious about, Kent, is how did this merger happen?
That's a great question. Marty and I met at the NRA show in 2024, so not that long ago. That show was, where was that show? That show was in Dallas, I think. So he had come over to the booth, and he knew a couple of our folks. He knew one of our critical response team, a guy named Gary Eastridge, who's a retired city PD, 30 years of law enforcement investigation experience. He still does critical response for us, by the way. But he came over and asked to be introduced to me. He was looking for some options for his members for a couple of things that Armed Citizens didn't offer. And so he just wanted to talk about how that worked, and would that be something we could cooperate on. And without getting into the details, it wasn't really something that we could do together or for his members. And so I had said, if I do that for somebody, they have to be a full member over here. And I'm not here to take your members and do anything like that. But if you have somebody who says, well, if you can't do this for me, I want to leave, you should send them my way. But, we just had a nice discussion about that. And then we kept in touch lightly over the following months. We talked a couple of other times here and there, just about how things were going and some of the things that they were doing. And at one point, somewhere in the process, I don't remember exactly when it was, to be honest, it became evident that they might be looking for a retirement opportunity or a different way, for the business to run where they wouldn't be in the day-to-day necessarily. And I just asked them if they would be interested in having us take a look at caring for the members and taking that off their plate. And that's when the dialogue really got going. And of course, I think if you talk to Marty, he would tell you, he's very skeptical of other people in the industry, and for a lot of reasons. And that through the work that we did together and talking through what we could do and how we could do it, he said, you guys are the only people I would trust my members with, which we were very honored, to hear that. And we really think, it's just an honor to have the members from ACLDN come and be part of CCW Safe. So it took place over, the following year plus. And of course, we closed the deal on the transaction on July 1st of this year.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, because there are certainly, I've heard some things, I have not confirmed them, so I won't go any further, of definitely some of the groups being a little bit less desirable, I'll just say, for members, and certainly some do not offer the same level of coverage as as some of the other groups, and especially, ACLDN and CCW Safe. Yeah. And so do you know, is it just the level of coverage and just how professional you guys are is what was the big thing that sets you guys apart?
Yes. I mean, back to, we had a little conversation earlier, but that comprehensiveness, full suite of stuff that we do, which included things that, Marty and Gila were not doing for their members, that they wanted to add. That was a big part of it. And then really the two other things, the expertise that we have on staff. Marty knows Don West really well. He knew that the members were going to get expert care, in the case of their incidents. And that was really their primary focus, was how would we take care of the members before making that decision. And then of course we agreed to honor the program that they were on at ACLDN and bring that same plan and pricing over to CCW Safe, so that it wouldn't be some sort of sticker shock. Well, yes, you're CCW Safe and here's your new price. And it was none of that. And so Marty made sure that it would be as seamless as possible for the member in terms of their transactions, but that they would then receive the benefits of some of the other things that we do here and the expert staff that we have.
Oh, that's awesome. So now I know that ACLDN has their network of attorneys. Did you guys take those on as well as the members?
Yeah, we have them. We don't utilize it the same way that they did. Of course, we have on our hotline, Don and Jennifer will take the majority of the calls, and then we locate and vet the attorneys in the local areas. And so that list essentially will be utilized by Don and Jennifer as a possible attorney for a member's incident. Now we know that there's been, because of Marty and Gila, there's been some pre-vetting done, so that sort of gets them to the top of the list. And actually we've discovered in looking through the attorneys that we'd already used some of them in some incidents around the country. So it's a high quality list. And I think that what the members will find is that, God forbid, if they get into an incident in their area, there's a significant likelihood that we might use one of those. But we don't pick them in advance, and we don't submit the list out to the members and say, pick this guy or pick that. Like, we want to help them. If they have an attorney that they prefer, we're always interested in that. We'll do a little vetting, and there's many times where we've used the person that the member wants to use. And then there's sometimes where we have to say, here's somebody who's a little more qualified than the person you brought forward, and we just want to give you the best chance of being successful in your case. And so we'll all agree together with the member to choose someone else.
Oh, that's great. I know in the new member packet that I got from ACLDN, it had, again, the list of the attorneys. Go online and look up, find some in your area. By all means, pre-interview them so that you can have one that you have a relationship with. And I never did it.
And hardly anyone did.
Yep. And so I knew that but again, also I trusted the list. I knew that anybody that ACLDN set my way was going to be the type of attorney that I wanted to have and at the price that I wanted.
Yeah. I mean, and they did a great job with that attorney list for sure. So I can tell you that as a company, we were excited to get that list, but even Don and Jennifer, who had that responsibility of helping with this attorney selection, we're really happy to have access to that. And we've talked to a handful of those attorneys already. I think the list was 300 or 400, so we certainly haven't talked to them all, but we've talked to a handful, and everything has been on point so far. And again, we saw some folks we had already used, so that was a validation as well for the list and for just overall qualifications of the folks who are on there.
Well, that is awesome. And again, I will reiterate, if especially if you carry a firearm, but really just kind of consider it in general, it doesn't happen very often, and most people don't have to worry about it, but the people that do have to worry about it, it's life-changing, these sort of trials. Again, we have, George Zimmerman and Kyle Rittenhouse were millions of dollars, but you've just mentioned a case that was over $400,000, which is a ton of money. And so it's just like medical insurance or car insurance. It's hopefully you never have to use it, but it's a real good peace of mind to have it. And I've been really enjoying talking with you, Kent. It's certainly made me even more excited about being a CCW Safe member after and. I will just wish Marty and Gila a happy retirement. So thank you so much, Kent, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I recall, I guess it was last week when we talked, no, maybe the week before. But anyway, you were talking to Kent Brown, and I asked a question. Okay, so what's going on? Did one acquire the other, or was it just a rename? And so this actually answered that question that I had about what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate the follow-up there.
Yeah. No, I actually was specifically just reaching out to Marty. That was how this whole thing got started. It was just saying, hey, do you want to just sit down and talk about this? Because I actually kind of wanted to hear Marty's side of it. But being that he's retired and he probably was busy as heck just making sure that everything was getting shut down and transferred with the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network for users. He just immediately just went, yeah, no, talk to Kent. And I mean, he's awesome. And I gotta say, that's one thing that's great in this world doing these interviews is to see someone who's just a power nerd on their subject matter. And it's especially comforting that like he is such just a dedicated and just fixated person on building just a great self-defense network and providing that rapid response that you're going to need in the event that, hey, okay, I've just been handcuffed and put in the back of a patrol car. I need some help here. And it's just as a CCW Safe member, I am. It is all good to hear that I'm in good hands.
No, that's a different insurance organization.
What's that?
You're in good hands with Allstate.
That's true. That is true. I can't speak about Allstate Insurance. I'm not a client with that.
Up next, David reviews Doubletap Ammunition's SnakeShot Defense Round, which is both a floor wax and a dessert topping.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. When the ACP crew went down to Atlanta, Georgia to attend the NRA annual meeting of members in April, I talked to a bunch of vendors. After I got home, I reached out to some of them regarding getting samples of their products for testing and evaluation. So in this segment, I'd like to talk about one of those vendors and their products. The first vendor to respond to my request was Doubletap Ammunition, a Utah-based company whose products initially came to market in 2002. I'd heard of them, but this was my first chance to actually talk to one of their reps. The About Us page on their website describes the company as follows. You've heard this scenario before. Someone wants to buy a product, but can't find it for sale anywhere, so he decides to create what's needed through much toil, sweat, and tears. Then he starts a company to share the product with others. The history of Doubletap Ammunition is a history similar to many American companies. Mike McNett had a dream to own his own business, and he saw a need for a product that wasn't being produced. High-performance 10mm ammo for a 10mm pistol. Like many other entrepreneurs, Mike ventured out to produce something he wanted for himself. He did this through learning about what makes ammunition perform at the highest levels, testing, and hard work. Once he had created what he was looking for, he decided to make it available to the public. In 2002, the dream of Doubletap Ammunition was made into a reality in Mike's garage. Doubletap Ammunition has rapidly gained a reputation for powerful, reliable, and accurate ammunition. We continue to be at the cutting edge of innovation from defensive ammunition to hunting ammunition. Quality control and precision craftsmanship are top priority at Doubletap. Every single round that goes out the door has been touched by our hands and inspected by our eyes. Following my request, they sent me a box each of 9mm and 45 ACP SnakeShot defense ammo. Each caliber was packaged in traditional 20-round cardboard boxes with plastic cartridge holders. The 9mm cases have the SnakeShot head stamp, while the 45 ACP rounds are loaded in Starline brass cases. Starline is a quality product, and it makes sense to use their brass while Doubletap sets up in-house production. or continues using Starline, whichever works better for their business plan in the long run. On opening the boxes, in addition to the expected lot number, there was also an inspected by stamp, a good sign of proper quality control. According to the Doubletap website, the 9mm loads are comprised of a 95-grain jacketed hollow point over 100 pellets of number 9 shot, while the 45 ACP round, which is rated plus P, is loaded with 185-grain jacketed hollow point and 120 pellets of number 9 shot. For obvious reasons, none of their SnakeShot loads are recommended for use with suppressors. The bullet jackets are well formed and have a smooth curve and are slightly scored at the front of the bullet to aid expansion. The hollow points are deep and cleanly cut. While examining the rounds, I noticed the hollow points resembled Torx sockets. To my surprise, a T15 bit fit perfectly in the 9mm hollow points, and a T25 did the same in the 45 ACP bullets. I don't know if this was intentional, but I found it pretty amusing. For testing, I used my everyday carry gun, a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 compact with a 4-inch Faxon barrel, and a Rock Island Arsenal M1911 tactical with the factory 5-inch barrel. Before risking my chronograph, I wanted to confirm the spread of the shot component of these cartridges. So I set up targets superimposed at 3 distances: a sheet of craft paper at 3 yards, thin cardboard at 5 yards, and heavier cardboard at 7 yards. For this test, I used the 45 ACP load. Since the pellet count is greater, I thought distribution might be wider. Pellet spread on the 3-yard target was mostly within 8 inches of the main projectile impact point, though several pellets impacted a foot or more away. The 5-yard target was peppered over almost the entire surface, and the 7-yard target only had a scattering of holes. While some of the pellets barely penetrated at that range, most of them went all the way through the final layer. Due to the wide spread of pellets on even the 3-yard target, I opted to err on the side of caution and not risk my chronograph. I fired 2 strings of 5 rounds of each caliber at 5 yards on separate targets for accuracy. Reduced scale B29 TQ targets were used in this stage of the evaluation. Feeding, firing, extraction, and ejection were all smooth. Both guns blocked open after the last round was fired. Recovered cases showed no signs of overpressure or excessive gas blowby. The ejection pattern was consistent enough that I didn't lose any cases to the brass spirits. Whatever powder Doubletap uses, it burns quite clean. There was very little combustion residue on the empty cases inside or out. These are all signs of cartridges loaded with care and in the sweet spot for pressure. Important considerations for my fellow reloaders. Accuracy was good. One thing that added a challenge when checking the targets is the rounds contain a copper overpowder wad that keeps the shot pellets from mixing with the powder. The 45 ACP put 3 rounds nearly overlapping with 1 slightly outside that group. I pulled the 5th shot low. While I could see on the target where the wads hit, only one of them actually penetrated the paper, though it didn't make it past the cardboard. I did better with the 9mm. All 5 shots clustered in a small group just above my point of aim. The wads in these cartridges had a little more steam behind them and punched nice clean holes through the target and backer. Unfortunately, my traditional penetration test medium no longer exists. Kids, ask your folks about phone books. And I haven't had room in the refrigerator lately to make ballistic gel. Taking a page from Scott of Kentucky Ballistics, I tested penetration with water-filled milk jugs. The results were entertaining and moist. I was even able to recover the projectiles and some of the shot. Note, this is not in any way a scientific test. Even bullet penetration into properly mixed ballistic gelatin can only be compared to other tests with similar specification ballistic gel. Anyway, carrying on. The 45 ACP rounds penetrated 2 jugs, stopping in the second. Entrance and exit holes were clean, and expansion of the hollow point was excellent, opening up to 0.72 inches. Remember my mentioning the 9mm load had a bit more steam? That was noticeable here too. Even standing nearly 3 yards back, I was splashed with water. This round was also stopped by 2 jugs, though the first one was split wide open on the entrance side. As with the 45 ACP load, hollow point expansion was excellent, opening up to almost 18mm. Overall, I found the Doubletap SnakeShot ammunition to be a good general-purpose woods and defensive round. I wouldn't feel underarmed with a magazine full of them on my hip. Give them a try and let me know what you think. Thanks again to James McNett, Doubletap's Director of Marketing and Social Media, for getting me the ammunition I used in this review. Have fun and safe shooting.
Once we came out with SnakeShot, the first question was, when's this going to be in a semi-auto?
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments, or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Aaron or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
David, I have to ask if the ammunition passed the rigorous testing of Inspector 12. Kids, ask your parents.
I mean, technically speaking, you might have to ask your parents about it's a floor wax. It's a dessert topping. Actually, what show was that? Was that SNL?
Yes,
Okay.
that was one of the early seasons of SNL, and it was Dan Aykroyd pitching Shimmer, which is both a floor wax and a dessert topping.
The good old days of SNL, back when it was funny. And I gotta say, the double tap, much like Buffalo Boar, it's essentially Bubba's Pissin' Hot Reloads, but you can still count to 10 with your boots on. And go check out the show notes. There's going to be a pile of pictures there. Please go put it in the show notes, because I'm going to have to upload all and link all these photographs that David sent me. And so it's, I need to do this, so you guys better look at them. But I was looking at the targets, and I just wanted to make sure. But I'm like, I didn't see any donut of death. And people may not be aware of this. This is definitely something that has been well documented with the Torx Judge revolvers, which are, in 410, is that they will often, because it's a handgun, so therefore it needs to have a rifled barrel. Because the shot cup ends up picking up a spin from the barrel when it releases it, the pellets kind of want to spread even more away from the target, but it also means that they're spreading away from the center, and that means they call it the donut of death, where there'll be a ring of pellets, but the actual point of aim that you're aiming at will be relatively clean, and this doesn't appear to do that, and I don't exactly know why, but good on them.
Yeah, when I first heard this, and David was talking about this being SnakeShot, living in Florida, I have some experience with SnakeShot, and usually it's just a cartridge with like a plastic cap where the bullet would be, and then you've just got the shot behind it. And it's just like a shotgun shell, but the pellets are very small, and you load it into a pistol or a rifle. And then David started talking about the hollow point, and I went, what? Which is why I made the Shimmer joke about how it's two things at once. It is a self-defense round, and it is also SnakeShot. I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be completely honest, because I feel like a self-defense round should be a unitasker, and if I was using this like for home defense, and they say this is really great because it doesn't penetrate as deeply, but if I'm in my home, this is where I have my stuff, and I don't want the shot going wherever it wants to go and breaking my stuff. I really like being able to say, okay, the bullet's going to go right there. So yeah, I wouldn't use it for that. I don't feel comfortable. Now, I agree that where it would shine would be when you are out in the wilderness, like you're hiking, you're camping, you're hunting, and you don't know who you might run into. You might run into someone who means you harm, or you might run into a varmint that you need to discourage. And so, in that case, it's a best of both worlds, but that's about the only time I could see using it. But I am far from being the expert here. I'm sure that there are people who will chime in and say, no, this is brilliant. And it's just, okay, I'm not going to argue it. I'm just saying it's a neat concept. I feel like its use is very narrow, but hey, I'm all for innovation in this particular field. So good for them.
Yeah, and I'll just note that one also nice aspect of this is that that hollow point bullet does allow for enough recoil impulse for it to cycle the action. Because I know that, like, if you have some of like the CCI shot shells, or even, you know, some of the older ones, I don't know if anyone's still making these, where it looks like an extra long cartridge casing and it's just been star crimped. It looks like a blank, but it's then it's full of shot of some sort. But many of those, there's not enough powder behind it to actually or there's not enough mass in the charge to cycle the action. And so because of that, it's better to use them in either a revolver or you have to manually cycle the action in between shots. But not these.
Yeah, that is true. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, hopefully, yeah, if you guys have like, oh, this would be perfect for this. I agree with you, Aaron. This is actually a really, really good one for, like, yeah, you're hiking in the woods where, yeah, it might be a person that's trying to do you harm. It might be a rattlesnake or something like that you want to dispatch, or it might be something bigger. Like you might suddenly, like, actually, I was thinking about I've seen lots of videos of people getting stalked by mountain lions, and just what a terrifying thing is just an apex predator like that trying to size you up. And the nice thing about this is that if you miss, I mean, they're quick and they can have a very, very narrow profile. And so the possibility of you pulling a shot and missing is true. But if that mountain lion's catching pellets, it may not do too much damage to them, but that may sting enough for them to reconsider things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're a listener and you've got another application that this would be great for, besides David's wonderful thing of turning milk jugs inside out, let us know.
So weird. You know who aren't milk jugs?
Our listeners. Though, if you know any sentient milk jugs that are interested in a bipartisan Second Amendment podcast, by all means, let them know. We have to thank each and every one of our listeners, both the humans and the milk jugs. But we give a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon, who all happen to be human. I have checked. To become a Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/Assorted podcast and sign up. Again, it's not a tip jar. It's not we're not holding a hat out and begging. It's a store. We got blooper reels. We got the ACB film tracks, and we got the ACB Magnum.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, because we like numbers that tell people how much you love us. Subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, because if you're subscribed, you won't miss an episode. And why would you want to miss an episode? And share the show with your friends, both online and off, because, hey, if you share the show, we will get more listeners. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It is what it's all about.
More ears listening to our melodious words.
And if you need a little bit more of me in your life, I got a blog. It's weirdworld.com. That's WERDworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at Linktree/Aaron Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Aaron Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
He's Floor Wax, and I'm a dessert topping. Our role in the show is Assorted, and so is our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.